this administration, has dug us, well, let me put it this way. Regardless of who you blame, we've been dug into a pretty deep hole the last 8 years. I've never seen a time in my career where the American middle class is more anxious about their future, where your parents are wondering more than they ever did about whether or not they're going to be able to maintain you and send your brother and sister to school, whether or not the job's going to hold up, whether or not the subprime mortgage crisis is going to end up rippling down to them. I've never seen a time when I spend an awful lot of time, I get a lot of undue credit for being this expert on foreign policy. All that means is I, as chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, and I get to travel the world. I literally know a significant number of the world leaders by their first name, not because I'm important, because I've been a senator since I've been 29 years old. And a lot of these, my dad were alive, he'd call that a misspent adulthood. But all kidding aside, a lot of the people are running their countries now are people that I attended meetings with in the 70s and 80s, and they were then parliamentarians. And I've never seen a time as I travel the world where America is more isolated in terms of the kind of respect we used to have. I've never seen a time when so few countries look to our judgment. They don't doubt our power, but they look to our judgment and wonder whether we've lost our way. And so, folks, the next president of the United States, whomever it will be, has an awesome, awesome responsibility, but such a gigantic opportunity. No president since Franklin Roosevelt has been delivered to a moment like this, where the next president is going to determine, well, not figuratively, literally, whether we were able to put the world back on track. Not make it a utopia, just put it back on track. Whether or not we're going to be able to reinvigorate this society in a way that people believe, and it's a corny sounding phrase, whether they believe the American dream is still real, the dream that we were raised in our neighborhoods, in my neighborhood, that if you work hard, if you play by the rules, if you love your country, if you put in the time and the effort, that there's nothing you can't accomplish. Folks, remember your calculus classes from undergraduate school, and you few crazy people who are engineers, God love you. But all kidding aside, remember your calculus class you learned about an inflection point? That's the point at which, like you're driving your car, where the steering wheel is dead straight, and once you make a move, even to a degree, you commit that automobile hurtling in a direction you can't immediately change. Well, in American history, there's probably been 4 or 5 inflection points where we've reached a moment in our history where the turn we're about to make is going to lock us in for the better part of a generation. Ladies and gentlemen, if we don't get it right on the Korean Peninsula and it ends up a nuclear peninsula, Japan will be a nuclear country. And there's no piece of legislation we can pass to say, hey, we made a mistake. If we don't get it right in the subcontinent of India, with Pakistan and India, God only knows what your generation will look like. If we don't get it right, if we can't now, when American business and American labor both know we desperately need a rational health care policy in this country, when are we going to be able to do it? When are we going to be able to do it? So, folks, take a look at the issues. I'm going to try to cut, as I say, right to the chase here. I'm known for being blunt, and sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I think you're entitled. I think you're entitled to know exactly what I think and exactly what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, what are the issues that are going to affect your generation? Going to determine what it's going to look like? The issues are war, terrorism, the Supreme Court, global warming, AIDS and malaria, the spread of nuclear weapons in the hands of the most dangerous people, a policy based on torture, the right to privacy, American competitiveness, access for everyone to a good college education. The questions are pretty simple. I think this is a pretty straightforward election. The decision I respectfully suggest you have to make is who is better equipped, who is better prepared to deal with the issues that are going to determine the shape of your life. Is it John McCain and Sarah Palin? No. Or is it Barack Obama and Joe Biden? Well, folks, you're making me feel like I'm home. Ladies and gentlemen, it really is that basic. It really is that basic. Who is best prepared to deal with these issues that are really going to... No, but it's... Well, thank you. But think about it. And if they move the prompter, I'll know what I'm doing, you know. All kidding aside, think about it. It's not really that complicated. Under President McCain, and these are not meant for applause lines, but just think of this as rationally as you can. Under President McCain, what are the prospects that we're going to have a radical change in our energy policy so that you do not go beyond the tipping point in global warming? What are the chances? What are the chances? Is it more or less likely with a President McCain we're going to have a new Cold War with Russia and maybe a hot war with Iran? What are the chances? What are the chances? John McCain, who voted against the nuclear test ban treaty, the comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty, and insist on building a new generation of nuclear weapons. What are the chances of our ability to reduce the ability of humanity to end humanity? What are the chances that our civil liberties, your right to privacy, will be strengthened under a McCain-Palin administration? Ladies and gentlemen, when Barack Obama, and I know it's been all over the news, that I wasn't anxious about being vice president. This is not an office I sought. I'm flattered, but this is not an office I sought. I had a pretty good job. I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. But what are the chances? I asked Barack when he said to me, would I consider being his vice president? And I said, I got to sit down and talk to you. And this is true. And I said, I wanted to know one thing. Are you really prepared? Are you really prepared to trust the American people and demand fundamental, basic change, the change we've been talking about? And when he said yes, I said yes. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when he said yes, I believed him, because everything about his life, everything about his campaign, everything he's done as a state senator, everything he's done as a United States senator, everything he's done has confirmed to me that he will demand, not just ask, demand much more of this country than has been asked of it, and be willing to take some very tough decisions. Because, folks, anybody who thinks there's an easy way out of every one of these crises, you're dreaming. But there is a way out. There is a way out of every single solitary problem we face. Each of them present a gigantic opportunity. Just imagine if we have a Supreme Court the next 30 years that supports environmental protection, civil rights, human rights, our civil liberties. Just imagine we have a country that by the year 2020 generates 20% of all the energy we consume by renewable energy, wind and solar. Just imagine a country where we invest in technologies to develop automobiles that don't pollute the environment, an energy policy that frees us from the tyranny of the oligarchs of the Middle East, the very people funding the people who are going after us. Just imagine if we have a country and a government that once again believes in science. Just imagine. A country that invests in research and development, a country that rebuilds the infrastructure, the roads, the sewers, the airports, and builds tomorrow's infrastructure. Universal development, universal access to broadband, Medlev trains that go 270 miles an hour, cars that run on hydrogen. It's all within our power to do that. It's not beyond our capacity. Y'all watch the Olympics. The so-called third world country, what did they have in that so-called third world country? They had a Medlev train coming into Beijing that went 270 miles an hour and it didn't pollute. And who's the third world country? Where are we? What are we doing with the incredible potential we have. Why? Why? Why have we not been able to imagine a country that encourages companies to grow and stay in the United States? Instead of giving them a $20 billion tax cut to go abroad, pay $20 billion to keep them here and create jobs. Imagine a country, imagine an administration where we only go to war when it's the absolute last resort. I guarantee you, Barack Obama and Joe Biden will end this war in Iraq. A war. They say we're a nation at war. We're an army at war. Very few families are making any sacrifice. 4,160 dead. 30,324 wounded. More amputees on a per capita basis than any war since the Civil War. Over 14,000 of our kids coming home requiring medical health care that's expensive for the rest of their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, enough is enough is enough.